a wicked track. That is ad infinitum, which apparently I found out means on and on and on. But it's by a local band called Numbskulls. They're on the local record label Rustic Records, so make sure you check them out. Awesome track, I'm absolutely loving it. Okay, so you're listening to The Word on Ujima, Bristol's #1 urban station. I'm Miranda, and joining us in the studio today we have Nick Ballard and Karen from the Acorn organisation. So hi guys, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Let's get nice and close, that's lovely. So I think we need to start by just explaining to the listeners, Nick, what Acorn is.
Okay, yeah, Acorn, we're a community union, community organisation, and we call ourselves a union because we're based on the principles of a trade union, but we work on issues that are affecting our local communities here in Bristol and throughout the country. So at the moment we're pretty well known for campaigning on housing issues in Bristol, things like the private rental sector standards in that. And because we think that local people need to come together to address our own issues and take control of our own problems and say that these are the answers that we need.
And so what in particular that drew me to you was you sort of highlighting tenants' rights.
Yeah.
And is this sort of one of the main projects you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you go about doing this?
Well, in the private rental sector, there's all sorts of issues around increasing rents, poor standards, and all the rest of it. And we felt that there needed to be an organisation that would address that, and crucially would be run by tenants for tenants. And so what we've been doing, initially we started off 2 years ago now in Easton, knocking on doors, chatting to people about their experiences, saying, hey look, we've got so many people who've got the same experience, how about we get together and do something about it? So initially it was raising awareness around things like increasing rents, agency fees, poor conditions, things like this. And then what we did was we held some public meetings and just talked over ways that we could start to address it. And that led into our campaigns for ethical lettings, promoting better practice in the industry, and also highlighting, naming and shaming the bad practice as well.
No, well that's actually, so have you had quite a good response?
Yeah.
Sounds like it has.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's indicative of the seriousness of the issue.
Isn't it just?
But we have had a very good response,
yeah,
because it is affecting so many people, and also the fact that we have actually made some real successes, and we're showing that we can make a difference, which then brings more people to us because they know that we're an organisation that can actually get things done.
Well, I mean, I'm pleased that you're having that success, but isn't it sad that we're in a situation like that in this day and age? What's the common thread that you're finding that people are suffering from, Karen?
Oh, there's a variety of things actually, but definitely poor conditions that people are living in, and also having revenge issues with their landlords. So the moment that somebody perhaps starts to complain, a lot of people are scared to make a complaint because they're worried that then their tenancy will end, and then they realise that it's been going up about 24% for the past 5 years or something in Bristol. So if you're paying £600 a month and you know locally it's £800, you don't want to say something to your landlord because you're worried you'll have to move and then you can't afford somewhere else. Or there are the landlords who will just say, right out, that's it. Even for quite serious things, like we've had people with problems with carbon monoxide poisoning, serious ill health because of damp. I lived in one of those. Yeah. I lived in one where we had to vacuum every single day, a small vacuum cleaner filled with water because of the damp.
It's horrific, isn't it? And I understand because I've been there myself, for many, many years, rented accommodation, and it got to the point actually when things were going wrong, leaking roofs and electric like that, I didn't actually get in touch with them because I was too worried about what that would mean.
Well, exactly, and that's why Acorn's here, because if you don't feel that you have the capacity or perhaps brave enough to go to your landlord yourself, you've got people like Acorn who can come and sit with you. So if you've got an overbearing landlord or quite demanding, or there's a couple and there's one of you, then we can come and sit next to you and just be that other person to balance it up a bit.
And that's fantastic, isn't it? So you're getting all sorts of complaints from different tenants across Bristol, or is it mainly in Easton?
No, it's across Bristol, really? Sadly. We started off in Easton because that's happened to be where the people who started Acorn, including myself, were living at the time. And there is a very high proportion of privately rented properties there, so there is a lot of problems there, but it's not exclusive to Easton by any means. It's all over the city, and actually it's beyond Bristol. This is a national problem. We've got a national housing crisis. Bristol is one of the worst affected areas for that, and it is across the city.
Why do you think Bristol's so bad?
Well, partly it's because it's a desirable place to live, not in terms of the physical conditions. Bristol isn't particularly bad. I think it's par for the course in the private sector, to be honest.
Right.
But some of the other issues that are affecting tenants and sort of like really making the housing crisis bite are specific to not Bristol but the south of England. So, you know, there's a real lack of supply of housing, which in turn feeds demand, which means that landlords can charge whatever they want in terms of rent. As Karen was saying, it's been 25% increase in rent in Bristol over the last 4 years, just 18% last year actually, which then means that you know, tenants, you know, the problems that Karen was talking about, people don't want to complain, which then means that physical conditions deteriorate further. The insecurity is an issue because people who do stand up, you know, do run the risk of being evicted. So, you know, and then with Bristol being a desirable place, more and more people are moving here, which is not a bad thing in and of itself, of course, but you know, then we need the protections as tenants to make sure that people who are here aren't priced out, and that the influx of people doesn't have negative impact